Hello and welcome to Democratically Speaking. My name is Mark Linde. I'm your host and I'm also the chair of the Brockton Democratic City Committee. Today I have a good friend of mine here who is running for Ward 4 School Committee, Bishop Tony Branch. Tony, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Mark.
Thanks for being here. Now, you're an activist. You've always helped other people get elected. This time, you're putting yourself out in front of the voters and your name on the ballot. Tell us who Tony is and why you're running.
Well, first I want to tell you happy anniversary and happy belated birthday. You're a great Brocktonian. We love you and we appreciate the community service that you do yourself. But I'm running this race, being an activist for now over 30 years, basically on the other side of the fence, helping other candidates, helping other advocates move their agenda forward, because I see that there's a need in Ward 4. We thank Patty for the great work that she's done as our school committee member, so this open seat allows us to bring forth someone with my professional background, not only in healthcare, not only in labor relations, but more importantly, like you have said, but as a very strong advocate. My goal is a single goal, is to make sure that there's a voice for the parents and for the children who are the end users of the Brockton public school system.
Wow, very well said in a short period of time. Made for television. There you go. What got you into the race? I know you mentioned open seat. It's usually easier to run first time out with an open seat.
Yep.
What got you in it specifically?
What got me in the race, and I've been clear on this for the last year actually, is that I think that public education is a national security issue. People hear me say that and they're like, oh my God, are you serious? I'm very serious. I think that it's very important that we do everything that we need to do, to have a very strong partnership at the table in order to make sure that we're advocating for the best academic experience for our pupils. So I'm in this race because I recognize and realize that there is a huge disparity of what's going on with our generation and what's going on with prior generations, whether it be violence, whether it be education, whether it be malnutrition, all those things that I've been involved with. I think that it's very important for people to understand that people such as myself that have been in private industry bring a lot to the table. Using project management skills, I'm willing to look at a top-down approach to the school system. That is to really look at leadership, to look at our fiscal responsibility, and to really look at, do we truly have a partnership between the classroom academics, which is our teachers, who are very important, and the parents that are coming into those classrooms with their students. So I'm involved because I know that the next generation, they need to be taught. And they need to understand the troubles that we have, but we also know that we can triumph over them if we work together. I mean, we say that we're in the city of champions, and we are. I often hear throughout the city people talking about Brockton, oh, crime it is. We are the city of champions. We can succeed not only in academics, we can succeed in public education, academics, and in public safety. But I think that it's very important that we need not to leave out the students that are really in need of leadership.
Well, I got involved when I was in high school. They had a student advisory council
Me too.
To the school committee. So I was an elected member for 3 years. That's what I did. You're a parent yourself.
I am.
Okay. Kids go through the system?
My kids are not currently in, they were in the system here.
Okay.
I think they currently are not.
Okay, but they were.
Yeah, exactly.
So as a parent, did you have issues, and do you feel that any of those issues were addressed when you were a parent? Yes, I think that they were addressed. I think that what has happened, first, my kids were actually succeeding pretty well. I have had cousins actually go also to Brockton High School who are succeeding very well, but I think that when you talk to the students, and I say this often enough, is because I'm a big believer as an executive, is that when you talk to the end users of a particular product, you want to get where they are. You want to get a feeling of what they're thinking in terms of customer service. So in terms of customer service, what are the end users saying about the Brockton school system? I'm really concerned about this recent battle of people feeling that they've been discriminated against in terms of disciplinary policy. I think we need to look at that and take that very seriously. I'm really concerned in terms of looking at how students are coming in and are graduating through elementary school into the middle school system. I think that we need to look at it. I think that we need to really just take a top-down approach to see what is not working, how to fix it, and how much does it cost. I think that often, and we say this, those of us that are in the political business, well, we have state funding that has been cut.
We understand that state funding has been cut, but if we look at it from a top down, are we making sure that we're maximizing dollars to the classrooms? Are we listening to our teachers? Are we listening to middle management? And more importantly, like I've said, are we listening to the students?
We're going to get back in a minute to a little bit more about you, but I have a question. Being an activist for all the years that you have and being involved in the Democratic Party.
Correct.
You dealt with a lot of union folks. Unions
Absolutely.
are kind of a backbone of the Democratic
Absolutely.
Party.
Yeah.
You have to be on the other side of the table as a school committee member.
Correct.
You have to be the management. You may or may not get on one of those negotiation committees.
Right, right.
How can you balance that with your strong union background dealing with unions and being on the management side? How would you deal with that if there was a dispute between the teachers union and the school committee?
Well, in any situation, and I teach leadership, I think that it's important that we negotiate. I think that one of my concerns is that we often see both the union and the sort of management experience as being adversarial. I don't think we need to do that in 2015. I think that we can come to a table, negotiate, as long as we know that there's one single goal. And what is that single goal, Mark? The pupils of the system. That's the single goal. If we all are on that same page, I think that we will do well. I think we will be able to succeed. I think we'll be able to overcome anything. And at the end of the day, union, non-union, we want our children to succeed. And I say this not as a cliche. Brockton has a very unique opportunity, not only to continue what we've done at Brockton High School, but throughout our system, to make sure that the academic experience is second to none. And if we know that that is our goal, and we know that that is the mission, and that's the mission of the superintendent to carry out what we're looking for in terms of our role as the school committee, I think we will succeed beyond people's expectation. My other concern is I think that there needs to be metrics. In private industry, and you know this, I want you to be able to, if I'm elected 2 years from now, and say, what were your contributions and what were your success with respect to the pupils of this system? That's how you measure me. That's the metrics there. And that should be the expectation of anyone that's running for school committee, that's been on a school committee, or that is currently in a management capacity.
Well, let's back up a little bit. You know, I know about your background, but the viewers may not. Right? Not everybody knows Tony Branch, even though you are, what did you say, the I'm
a selfie king.
There you go, there you go. Talk about yourself. Tell us your background, why you think your background and your experience in Brockton lead you to be a good member of the Brockton School Committee.
Well, I can tell you that there's no secret. Currently, I'm administrator of neurosciences and oncology at Mass General Hospital. Unfortunately, a position that's soon to be eliminated. I have several years of healthcare experience. I've been a vice president of support services. I've been a director of labor relations, and I've done a lot of job training development for those that are coming into the workforce who don't necessarily want to attend secondary education. They actually want to get technical schools, computer skills, stuff of that nature. I've been an executive director of a social service agency, and I've run a social service agency that had a census of about 300 to 400 people a month that were coming in, not only for job skills, but also for nutritional services and social services. So I bring a very strong background of community work. And then then there's no secret that I have a significant background in affordable housing as well. So again, I'm one of those type of leaders that has a very good skill mix, if I may, to come to the school committee. But then there's a flip side of that. I've been also like some of the pupils that are in the system. I've been homeless. I've been hungry. I've been on food stamps. I've had to have Commonwealth Health. So for me, it's also a unique perspective of have been sort of in the trenches and have graduated to greater things because people have mentored me. People have, I'm not only talking about in the church because, you know, I've been a clergy for 35 years, but I'm thinking that people have mentored me in and outside of the church so that I would be able to succeed. So I think that it's very important to have people in the system now, because this is not, you know, that's not been our tradition. Traditionally, it's been, you know, people that are moving on to political office. I'm not interested in any other office. I'm interested in helping the end users of the system succeed. That's my only goal.
Do you think it's important for people to see someone like you be a school committee member? Okay, the city council cracked the diversity barrier a couple of years back.
Correct.
With Moses Rodriguez, Cape
Correct.
Verdean, Shayna Barnes, African American, Jay Stewart, African American.
Correct.
School committee hasn't done that. Wayne Carter was on years ago,
I already know,
but not recently. And do you think that it would be a help?
I think that would be a help. I think that I know we're 80% of the school system, so it's ironic that we're not reflected on the school committee, because that's where policy is set. So this is an opportunity for us to do that if I'm elected. I'm one who I really don't believe, both on a personal and political sense, that race really matters. I think that, and I say that because, again, whether you could be black, white, homeless, Spanish homeless. I've been homeless. I connect with anybody that's been homeless. I connect with anybody that's been poverty stricken. So for me, So for me, race doesn't matter, but I think that it would be helpful to have somebody at the table that the kids can see, the parents can see, as a reflection of them.
What about teacher diversity? There's been talk about that. You brought up the issues with the allegations of discrimination. Do you think more can be done to diversify the school system?
Absolutely. Without a doubt. I think the school system should reflect the community in which it serves. And that should be our #1 goal. That's not quotas. That is, the school system should reflect the community that it serves. And quite frankly, I think that that should happen across municipal government.
How do you lure a person that lives in Brockton that can get paid more in Boston, in the Boston public schools, and you want to keep them here, you want it to reflect the community, but that's what I've heard at the school committee meetings that the HR people and folks have talked about. How do you work that out? I mean, to me, I like driving down the street to go to work. I don't really ever want to sit in traffic or take the train, which you're familiar with doing, but how do you keep them here?
Well, that's as a director of recruitment, that's a very good recruitment question. And the bottom line is this: it's not only wages. It's again, it's what you're saying. Some of the fringe benefits of being in the community, not leaving the community. It's about working within a distance of your particular job. It's about being able to access. When I worked with mothers, access to their children, or when they were looking to work at local hospitals or willing to work at local businesses. It's a whole gamut of stuff that you must market and package in addition to the wage assignment, if I'm making any sense at all. I know I'm talking my HR lingo, but that's actually the reality of some of the background work that we've done. So when you look at market studies in terms of salaries and wages, and you look at fringe benefits, you also look at, hey, there is a benefit for you to remain in your community. But you're absolutely right. There is a huge, actually, salary disparity with respect to Brockton and Boston. But on the flip side of that, $150 for a commuter rail, that's money that you spent that could be well not spent if you remain within the community. So I'm one that believes in a holistic approach to employment, and that is to say that we have to sell our city. Not just say we're champions, but to identify what being a champion means, if that's making any sense.
Well, what better way to sell the city than through the end user, the students?
That's
if
correct.
You look at Brockton being named regularly as U.S. News and World Report, do you think all the schools are in as good shape? When my kids went through the system, you had kindergarten. One of my kids was half-day kindergarten. One of them, I won the lottery, and he was full-day.
That's right.
Went at the brand-new Plouffe school.
Yeah.
Elementary was a pretty good experience. What about the middle schools? I hear a lot of discussion about the middle schools. Is that a weakness in your opinion?
I think the middle school is somewhat a weakness, but why is it somewhat a weakness? It's somewhat a weakness because remember, those middle school students have come through our elementary track. So I think that, again, this is why I'm a strong believer in really looking at the bottom with respect to that and to see how we can graduate programs that make sense. But I think that when I speak, people always ask me, well, how are you going to pay for it? And this is, again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think that's why it goes back to really looking at to make sure that we are tying as many dollars as we can to the classroom and many dollars as we can to the teachers that are in those particular rooms.
School committee has a specific role.
Correct.
I know as a school committee member for Southeastern Voc Tech that the day-to-day management of the school system is left up to the superintendent and the policy and the resource allocation and things like that of the school committee. How do you see the balance between the school committee, the 7 school committee members, and the administration, the superintendent of schools, and her administrative team?
At the end of the day, the superintendent and her administrative team works for the school committee. It is a balancing act. One of the things interesting that you said that, because often when I peer into some of the school committee meetings, One of the concerns that I have, and I've been meaning to address to ask people this question, is that when people give their comment, so you come in, you give your comment, and there's our body, there's the school committee that's sitting there, there's the mayor that's sitting there. They give their comment, they get up, they walk out. There's not much dialogue between the school committee and the citizens. That's a problem. I think that with respect to the management side, I think that there needs to be better communications between us and the citizens that are coming in for them to understand that the policy is actually set by us and that the superintendent serves at our pleasure.
So what would you do to address that? Let me turn it right on you. What would you do to increase two-way communication?
I think that I briefly looked at, I think there's some contract language actually, and that's one of the reasons why we do it. I think we need to look at that. But I think that if you come and that you have an issue, I want to do more than just nod. I want to ask you some questions. So I think that it may require the school committee to spend a little bit extra minutes there because I think there might be some time constraints. So I think that we may have to spend a little bit more time there to make sure that there's a Q&A. I think that I would like to talk to my colleagues, ask them, why don't we have a Q&A? A Q&A. They have presented a comment, we question and answer. What is the citizen thinking? I don't think we're doing a very good job at open communications right now.
Well, in the past, and I know the reasons for it and against it. In the past, there were community meetings set up between the city council, the school committee, and the mayor.
Right.
When Councilor Sullivan was the president of the council,
I recall.
And Bill Carpenter's first year. Those meetings haven't happened this year. I'm not quite sure why, as one of the members of that multiple body. First time Southeastern ever got included, by the way.
Wow.
We're kind of like off to the side.
Communications.
Okay, but I know that it is a time constraint. I know under hearing of visitors under open meeting law, there's a reason for it.
Right.
Would you do, there are PACs, there are parent forums. Would you approach it in that manner, or would you do it at the school committee level?
I would do it at both. I think that people should be able to walk away from their public bodies believing that they've been heard. You teach communications, and as you know that, I'm a preacher, been preaching for a very long time. When I'm preaching to my crowd, or if I'm doing public speaking, I do public speaking across the country, I get a feel that people are resonating with my message. I'm not sure that I've been walking away from the school committee meetings with a feeling that my comment or concern has resonated with the body, if that's making any sense. But I think, to your point, is that yes, you can do it both ways. I would do it both ways. I don't think there's a single way of doing any of this work. I think that we're all a work in progress, so I think that doing it both ways would be helpful.
Now, you've been around for a while, and you've seen this superintendent, the previous superintendent, and probably other superintendents. Superintendent Malone started out real strong in Brockton, and there seemed to be a rift between the school committee and the superintendent, and they parted company.
Right.
This superintendent had been passed over at that point in time, and now she's the superintendent. Right. How important is it for a good relationship between the school committee and the superintendent?
It's exceptional. It has to be an exceptional working relationship. An exceptional working relationship. Quite frankly, there's no excuse for it being anything different. And as a manager myself, or as a person who's been supervised by boards, actually it's essential to your success that the policy body respects you and that there is a clear understanding of the goal. You know, what's interesting though is that, and the public sphere may be a little bit different, but in the private sphere, you and I both know, expectations are expectations, and expectations with respect to communication goes both ways. But at the end of the day, Mark, we're here for the pupils that are in the system. So I think that's very important.
Now, there's this whole thing in terms of the setup of the school system with a north zone and a south zone. The city prospered by doing the voluntary desegregation plan because they had 90% funding for the school buildings. There is a push to go back to neighborhood schools.
Correct.
How do you feel about that? What's the balance?
I'm absolutely in support of going back to neighborhood schools. I think that it will, especially for, and this I think where a lot of discussion around people of color come in. The fact remains that we are, and I'm a person of color myself, as you can see, when in the family dynamics, we need to, it would be better for us to have those students nearer to home so they can safely walk home, they can be safely picked up by their siblings versus them having them across the city. When you sit down, and I do this all the time, and hear families talk openly about, not the political thing about you got to be careful what you say, talk openly. They say, I want my kid up to school up the street. That's what should be happening in this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that, and that's what I support. And I've actually committed to that we should go back to a neighborhood school system. People have asked me, and I believe that.
Now, years ago, they changed the structure of the school committee. At one point, the school committee was elected completely at large. All the members of the school committee, and they all ended up being from the west side.
Right.
So
right.
There was a proposal put forward to divvy it up among the 7 wards.
Right.
Do you think the school committee has enough members? Do you think they should have some at-large members like the city council? I'm just, Jay Stewart, who's outgoing city council, talked about looking at the form of city government. Do you think there's any kind of need for change or anything within the structure of the school committee?
Within the structure, absolutely not. I don't think we should increase the numbers. I think it should be ward-based. There's no need to make it citywide. You got to be very careful on changing, and I'm a project manager, so I know this, but changing things that are not broken. In this particular, I think the school committee is actually quite effective. And I worked with the Boston when we had an elected Boston School Committee many eons ago. I saw how they operated, but I also saw some disruption. So I don't think that we need to make any changes to the current system of government with respect to the school system.
Now, I know you're knocking on doors, you're walking around, you're talking to the residents in Ward 4.
Yep.
What are you hearing of their issues? And has any of it surprised you?
Actually not. The number one issue, this may sound weird, has been they don't, you know what people are actually talking about? The safety of the students with respect to the casino being so near to Brockton High School.
Okay.
That's what people are actually talking about. And they're also talking about bus stops, the safety of bus stops in the city, how they feel that these school buses are just dropping off the students, leaving them there, there's no bus monitor, and kids are crossing the streets. And they actually asked me what I felt about changing bus stops, and I'm like, there must be some sort of safety plan or safety portion, something safety that deals with stuff like that within the school department. So those are actually the 2 issues where students are being left off, getting off the buses, and they're crossing the streets and they're nearly getting hit. And then the second piece of it is folks are talking about the availability of a casino that is actually near the Brockton High School. And of course, I'm a supporter of the casino. So it was like, people were like, well, what do you think about that? And I'm like, that's a valid point. I think that's a valid concern, but I think that if we were to complete a process around having what I call I don't even call it a casino, I call it a reservation, whatever it was. I think that we would be a resort. I think that we would be able to mitigate whatever the safety issues are, or with respect to the police and how things are managed.
Now, you said earlier on in talking about the whole thing about how the schools are part of the, I guess, crime prevention. Correct. If you really think about it.
It is.
I say the same thing as being the chair of the library board, where I think we're education and public safety at the library, because it's the public library where everyone comes in and everybody's equal. How would you go about being an advocate or an ambassador for the school system as a school committee member?
I would first want to sell, and I say sell because it's a marketing word we use, but I would first want to sell what is the best of being a student within the Brockton public school system. That's what makes you an effective ambassador. What makes a person an effective ambassador, I was teaching customer service last week at MGH. One of the things I told them, what makes you an effective ambassador is that you put on the best face forward with respect to the great clinical work that is done. Same applies to industry, same applies to the public school system. The best of what we do should always be marketed. And this is why I have a problem, and I push back on people that criticize the city for crime. Brockton has a crime issue. It's not something that we can't overcome. I think the flip side of that is that but we are a great city. I mean, you walk around the city, people are actually prosperous, people are happy, we are diverse, we are truly the melting pot. So for me, I get frustrated because I see the greatness, but I'm not sure that we market the greatness of the city, and that's my point.
Let me ask you, we got about 5 minutes left. I got my cue. No, don't be sorry. This is good. It's a nice free-flowing and it's a not rehearsed discussion, okay? No. Real quick, charter schools, your position on it. Brockton has been strongly opposed to it, has fought it back multiple times, and I want to make sure I leave you time for a closing statement.
Charter schools I'm opposed to. I am on record as being opposed to giving any public dollars to any other organization other than to the public school system.
Okay, that's real clear, because it looks like we have a state administration that is very favorable towards charter schools, and there might even be a ballot question about lifting the charter school cap. So, you know, I know the whole school committee stood in solidarity. I was there testifying myself as well, because again, public dollars of public resources. I don't buy the argument, because I think we have excellence in the school systems we have here, with private and with public.
Right. We absolutely do, and I think that that's what my concern is that people, for some reason, we've gotten, for the last 2 or 3 decades of moving money around, thinking that's going to solve problems. What's going to solve problems, and this is a part of my closing, like I've said, is very strong leadership in the public school system, making sure that we have fiscal responsibility and parent involvement. There's no way around this, that we have to look at this as a true partnership. And let me tell you something, the partnership can't be a cliche, it can't be a meeting once a month. The partnership is us really saying that we're going to have meetings often, we're going to have metrics to solve problems, we're going to have a door open, whether it's looking at a poor bus stop that needs to be fixed, that should not be an executive decision. Some of the common sense practices in order to move the school system forward is what I'm advocating.
Okay, I'm going to give you a chance to sell yourself. You can talk to the viewers directly. The people that are going to vote for you, there are 3 candidates in this race. That's why there's a preliminary election. So tell them why Tony Branch. 2 minutes.
Okay. So I am Bishop Tony Branch. Many of you have known me for some of the work that I've done. But the work that I've done, I haven't done it for me. I've actually done it for you. I'm running for school committee because I think that the parents and the pupils need a very strong voice on the school committee. Our current school committee member has done a tremendous job. But I'm running in this race because I love our community. I don't see the negative. And the negative that is out there, there's nothing that we can't fix. It's very important to have, at this point, great diversity on the school committee. Now, I know someone at the audience probably said, what is he talking about, great diversity? This is a discussion about race. It's not. I'm talking about diversity in terms of competencies, diversities in terms of advocating practices that are different, diversity that says let's look top to bottom of what's going right and also what's going wrong, and how do we have a metrics to fix it. I'm running this race for school committee because I'm looking to represent you, not me. If you're looking for a grassroots candidate, someone that has been in the trenches for you, someone like I've told Mark, I've been homeless, I've been hungry, and I've been destitute for many years when I was younger. But now I've changed. Why have I changed? Because a great school, because a great school system invested in me. Why did I change? Because a great guidance counselor, Mrs. O'Brien from the Humana Tech. Why did I change? Because someone decided that they would hold my hand when I was laying down on the ground. I am a candidate, not because I'm a great individual. I'm a candidate because I want to serve the people of Ward 4. That's why I'm running. That's how clear it is.
Perfect closing. Timing-wise, I think I have less than a minute. Real quick, phone number, website. Just quick.
ElectTonyBranch.com, 617-755-3535.
There we go. Thanks, Tony. Pleasure to have you on. We'll have you on. We'll follow you up during the election.
I appreciate you. You all are great.
Thank you. We're watching Democratically Speaking. Mark Linde, your host. We will have more candidates for the different offices, for school committee, for city council, for councilor at large, and mayor. Keep watching, but most importantly, be active and vote. If you don't vote, you can't complain, and then you have no choice in the end if you weren't part of the process. Thanks for watching.